I started this firm around 3.5 years back. We were fortunate enough to launch it at the Global Peace Conference at The Hague. And ever since, the benchmark has been to be an international global law firm specializing in the emerging tech sector. Our initial clients and most of our clients are in the space of using blockchain or blockchain as a service provider. That is how we do a lot of work with companies in the area of cryptocurrencies, understanding what is tokenization, what do you mean by fractionalizing an asset. And we've been working not just in UAE, which is pretty much the hub for such companies now. We've also been able to offer our services across the globe with our network, with our in-house counsels who are qualified in different jurisdictions. So we help you not only to understand what your core business is, we also help you and hold your hand throughout the journey of till you launch your product, till you go for your seed A funding, till you go for your Series A, Series B, talking to different investors, understanding what your intellectual property is, where it should be stayed. So we've been in part of a lot of these projects. Our first project was actually for a health tech company that was going to use blockchain for organ donation. Fortunate enough, in 2019 in the Arab Health Forum, it was launched by Sheikh Mohammed. Called the app was by Ministry of Health and Prevention. So understanding using of blockchain, legal implications of it, and then what happens to the data that is stored there. So we've been in such projects throughout. We've also been very active in the space of drafting policies, drafting guidelines for the regulators in the Arab region. We've drafted guidelines for digital identity and eKYC for all financial institutes. We've drafted the guidelines recently for blockchain to be used by financial institutes, and all have been under the patronage of Arab Monetary Fund, which is a part of IMF and World Bank. So we've been working not only just with private clients, we've also been working very closely with the regulators and the governance authorities to understand what are the risks, what is the speed at which the technology develops, and what is it that we need to do at look at the regulation and the legal framework. Not every startup would know. You would still be surprised. You would assume that because blockchain's been there for 10 years, the use case mostly initially was just in the financial sector, talking about the cryptocurrencies or the virtual financial assets. The real use cases of it started coming only recently. And with blockchain, the main focus of every regulator globally moved to data protection. When we look at that, the data is there and I can manage it, but how do I regulate it? How do I make sure that this is not misused? So these all go hand in hand. So one cannot say it comfortably today that a startup would know everything about it. So our model has been that when we work with startups, we're not only looking at advising them on what is the correct licensing that they should go for. Our main focus or the main queries that have come to us in the last 3 years have been all the startups are looking for funding. And when they deal with their investors, what are the do's and don'ts? What do they need to understand? What's a shareholder? Basic corporate structuring needs to be done. How do I secure my IP? Because I'm the one with who, a startup would come up with great idea, but then you meet with a VC and 5 years later down, you realize you're a minority shareholder and everything's gone up. So we've been very actively working, not just as legal service provider in that, we have mentored many startups to understand that what are the risks and how I would like to do everything tomorrow, but how do I phase it out? How do I put it in different projects? How do I start with something where I could just start with a license, but if I'm regulated, I could do it once I am a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old company. So Karm has been working not just as your regular law firm. We actually get involved in every project that we work on. Our clients are now very actively in the fintech space. Again, UAE has promoted and has shown itself globally that how it is a fintech hub of the Arab world. So working with a lot of regulator, giving a lot of advice on that has been what we've been doing for the last, I would say, a year and a half, quite a bit in this space. We wouldn't hesitate about it, but we would make sure that we're giving the right advice and letting them know that just because you have the access or you've created a technology by which a lot of data you've collected, you can do anything with it. There are ample laws and regulations, there are ample policies and pretty stringent across the globe on how do I protect this data? How do I protect the privacy of the people who've given you that data? So it's not only because I've got the tech, I go ahead and do anything. There are laws in place for it already. UAE is a correct example. We've got, even if we don't have a federal data protection law right now, but we do have ample mention of it in different laws. And when we have the laws also on from ADGM and the IFC, both on data protection, then we have the GDPR, we have the California data protection law. So every regulator who's involved and looking at the technology, enough data protection laws and governance has been provided. We've got some disputes also where we're looking at it where a data breach has happened and then they've been heavily fined. The companies have gone for it, and it's not that just because you're a large company that you will be fined. It's even small startups who have to take care of it. So it's not that you have the technology and you go ahead and do everything. Especially in the blockchain segment, let me start. 2016, Dubai came out with a blockchain policy and a big statement by His Highness that by 2021 we will be a blockchain-enabled country. When you see events like Future Blockchain Summit or the events that have happened in the last 2 weeks, everybody who's big in the blockchain space is pretty much currently in UAE right now. Going back to what this region is doing in this space, then I've been here 17 years, and in the last 4 5 years is the first time I'm actually experiencing, and this is my personal opinion, where there's a huge knowledge transformation that we're seeing is happening in the region. It's no longer just traders coming and doing trading business or just the old traditional businesses of oil and gas, but how these new technology is setting up. A lot of incentives have been given by the governments. There are a lot of incubator programs, accelerator programs which have been launched. Sandbox situation, which is the need for any country to have where the technology needs to grow in a properly planned out manner. UAE has been leading that space. So it's not just a talk. We've seen more than I don't know how many in the sandbox. 3,000 companies have already matured and they are offering their products globally. So will the region be able to do it? The region's already doing it. And in the blockchain tokenization space, where the other countries are still looking at should we ban it, should we allow it, UAE's gone ahead and drafted laws and regulations in it. That's why we've been able to attract the serious big institutes who are in this space to come and base out of UAE.